The 8-year-old who saved a billion-dollar company. Dr. Harrison Blake jabbed his finger at 8-year-old Maya Williams like she was a pest. Fix this, kid, and I'll give you 100 million. The billionaire CEO's face twisted with cruel amusement as vicious laughter rippled through Mathcore Industries' boardroom. Maya's mother, Rosa, a cleaning woman, tried to drag her daughter toward the exit while 2 million livestream viewers watched Blake destroy a little girl's dignity for sport. Behind Blake, screens blazed with error messages. His billion-dollar AI system had crashed 3 days ago, causing autonomous vehicles to malfunction and killing 4 people in Tokyo. His team of MIT graduates and Harvard PhDs stood helpless. The crisis had hemorrhaged $3 billion in stock value, and automotive executives from Toyota, BMW, and Ford were ready to abandon their partnerships. Maya had been coming to these buildings since she could walk. While other kids played with toys, she studied glowing numbers on abandoned monitors, teaching herself programming from overheard conversations between exhausted engineers. Now she stood invisible in the corner, watching 50 experts fail spectacularly. "Excuse me," Maya's small voice cut through the tension. Blake's face darkened. "Not now, sweetheart. The adults are working." Maya took 3 steps forward. "I think I see what's wrong." Blake gestured dismissively at the wall of flashing screens. "This is rocket science, honey. Maybe you should stick to coloring books." "The computer is confused," Maya said with unusual certainty. "It's not broken. It just doesn't understand what you're asking." She pointed at the main screen. "You're telling the computer to do something, but you meant to ask it a question. It's like when you say your name is Sarah instead of asking, 'Is your name Sarah?' The computer gets mixed up." Dr. Sarah Carter, Blake's lead architect, squinted at the display. Blake's confidence wavered. "That's not how programming works." "Can I show you?" Maya asked. Toyota's CEO leaned forward with interest. "I'd like to see what the child suggests." "Trapped," Blake agreed through gritted teeth. Maya walked to Dr. Carter's workstation and pointed at the screen. "The computer thinks you're changing something instead of checking something. You need to fix how you ask the question." Dr. Carter made the smallest change. 1 keystroke, 1 symbol. Within 60 seconds, every error message disappeared. System status lights shifted from red to green. The AI hummed back to life after 3 days of failure. "Sometimes computers just need you to ask nicely," Maya smiled. The room erupted. Blake stood frozen as his billion-dollar crisis dissolved from a child's observation. But Maya wasn't finished. "There are more places like that one," she said, studying the screens. "Want me to show you?" Over the next 30 minutes, Maya identified dozens of identical errors throughout Mathcore's systems, the same confusion between commands and questions appearing everywhere. Each fix improved performance dramatically. "When my mom cleans windows, she checks every corner," Maya explained. "You guys only looked at the middle parts." Blake watched his MIT graduates being schooled by a child who learned programming through Office Windows. His humiliation went viral instantly, with hashtag Maya roasts Blake trending worldwide. Desperate to salvage his reputation, Blake made a dangerous bet. 24 hours. Find and fix every error in our entire infrastructure. If you succeed, I'll write you a check for $100 million. When you fail, you and your mother leave forever, and we announce your success was beginner's luck. Maya studied the overwhelming wall of data. "I'm not scared, Mr. Blake. Are you?" For 24 hours, Maya worked systematically. Instead of reading millions of lines of code, she identified 5 common error patterns that appeared throughout Mathcore's systems. By hour 12, she'd found over 400 errors. By hour 20, over 600. Then she discovered something worse: hidden backdoors in the hospital management system. "Mr. Blake, bad people could break into your hospital computers and steal sick people's information." Blake dismissed her concern, but Carter went pale. "She's right. We have massive security holes." At hour 24, Maya had identified 847 distinct errors and exposed a catastrophic data breach that had been stealing customer data, proprietary algorithms, and trade secrets for 18 months. Blake tried one final deception. "These aren't programming errors. These are evidence of corporate sabotage by external hackers." Maya tilted her head. "Why would hackers make the same mistakes your programmers always make?" The backdoors use your company's coding style. Same spacing, same variable names, even the same spelling mistakes. Dr. Carter verified the devastating truth. The vulnerabilities were coded simultaneously with the main systems. This wasn't sabotage. It was systematic incompetence baked into Mathcore's training programs. Why did you try to blame other people for mistakes your company made? Maya asked with innocent honesty. The question destroyed what remained of Blake's credibility. 7 million viewers watched a billionaire CEO exposed by an 8-year-old's unshakable moral clarity. Blake made one last attempt, challenging Maya to fix Mathcore's quantum encryption system, infrastructure protecting $3 trillion in daily financial transactions. One mistake here doesn't just crash a few cars. It crashes civilization. Maya studied the complex quantum algorithms calmly. Mr. Blake, can I ask you a question first? Do you understand all this code? Of course. PhD from MIT, specialization in quantum cryptography. Then can you explain why it's running so slowly? Blake dismissed the question, but Maya had found it again, the same interface errors hobbling even their most sophisticated systems. One simple fix jumped performance from 60% to 94% efficiency. Maya's corrections revealed the full scope of the breach. The FBI arrived within an hour. International partners demanded emergency briefings. The story became the biggest corporate security case in tech history. Blake stood before the room that had witnessed his complete humiliation, his voice barely audible. Maya Williams, you have earned the $100 million prize. You've saved this company from catastrophic failure, exposed massive criminal activity, and taught us all a lesson about wisdom, competence, and the courage to see clearly. Maya looked up at him with generous forgiveness. It's okay, Mr. Blake. Grown-ups make mistakes too. Her story sparked a global movement. Companies began hiring fresh eyes, consultants. Universities created programs for unconventional thinkers. Parents started truly listening to their children's insights. Maya proved that brilliance doesn't require credentials. It doesn't arrive with framed certificates, polished resumes, or titles that demand respect before a word is spoken. True brilliance is quieter than that. It lives in clarity of thought, in the courage to see what others ignore, and in the strength to speak when silence feels safer. Maya didn't belong to the rooms where decisions were made. She wasn't invited to the table, didn't wear a badge that granted authority, and didn't speak in rehearsed corporate language. She stood on the edges, watching, listening, understanding. While others were busy defending their status, she was studying the truth. While they argued from ego, she reasoned from reality. And when she spoke, it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't demand attention, it was simply accurate. That was what unsettled them. Because the world is comfortable with brilliance that looks familiar, brilliance that wears the right clothes, comes from the right schools, and sounds the way power expects it to sound. But when intelligence appears in unexpected places, it threatens the illusion that authority equals wisdom. Maya didn't interrupt to prove she was smart. She spoke because something was wrong. A system was failing. An assumption was flawed. A truth had been overlooked because no one thought it was worth listening to someone like her. Yet she saw it clearly. She saw how small errors became big failures. How arrogance blinded people who thought they already knew everything. How silence was mistaken for ignorance, and humility was confused with weakness. Maya understood that knowledge isn't owned by rank, it's earned by attention. For a long time, she stayed quiet. Not because she lacked answers, but because she knew the cost of speaking. She had learned, like so many others, that the world doesn't always reward honesty, especially when it comes from the margins. She knew that voices like hers are often dismissed before the sentence is finished. But courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that the truth matters more than the fear. So when Maya finally spoke, it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't polished. It was raw, clear, and undeniable. And in that moment, something shifted. The laughter stopped. The confidence in the room cracked. The people who had been so certain suddenly had no answer. Not because Maya humiliated them, but because she exposed the truth they had ignored. And that is the kind of brilliance the world rarely prepares for. The brilliance that doesn't seek permission. The brilliance that doesn't ask to be believed. The brilliance that simply is. How many Mayas are sitting quietly in corners right now, In classrooms where their hands are never raised because they've been taught that their voice doesn't sound right. In offices where their ideas remain unspoken because credit never seems to travel in their direction. In communities where talent goes unnoticed because it doesn't match society's expectations of where intelligence should come from. How many Mayas have already learned to doubt themselves, not because they were wrong, but because no one ever listened long enough to realize they were right? The tragedy isn't that these voices exist in silence. The tragedy is that the world keeps functioning as if silence means absence. Every system that fails, every innovation delayed, every injustice prolonged, somewhere behind it is a Maya who saw the problem early and wasn't heard. Because progress doesn't stall due to lack of intelligence. It stalls due to lack of listening. And maybe the question isn't whether more Mayas will speak. Maybe the real question is whether we are finally ready to listen. Because the future doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the clearest one. And when we learn to listen to those who were never given a microphone, we don't just change individual lives, we change outcomes, systems, and history itself. Maya proved something powerful that day. That truth doesn't need permission. That brilliance doesn't need validation. And that sometimes, the most important voice in the room is the one everyone overlooked. So if you are a Maya, waiting, watching, holding back, know this: your clarity is not invisible. Your silence is not insignificance. And when you choose to speak, the world will either listen, or reveal exactly why it needs to change. Because the next breakthrough, the next solution, the next moment of truth, is already sitting quietly in a corner, waiting to be heard.